Hello, very good morning to all of you. Since last 2 days, we have good sessions, very interesting sessions by Mr. Mahesh Pandit sir, Mr. Dr. Nitin Verma sir, and Mr. Keshav Rajgopal sir. We have in all 6 sessions from last 2 days. First day, the first session was on Reboot India, Service to Innovation Nation by Mr. Mahesha B.R. Pandit. Second session was about Creating Blue Oceans by Dr. Nitin Verma sir. And in the afternoon session, Professor Keshav Rajgopal, he presented on analytical tools and frameworks. Yesterday, it is Tuesday, first session was by Mr. Dr. Nitin Verma. It was on reconstructing market boundaries. And second session again by Dr. Nitin Verma. And his presentation was on focusing on the big picture, not the number. And in the afternoon, Mr. Mahesha B.R. Pandit presented about reaching beyond existing demand. Today, we have our first session by Mr. Keshav Rajgopal, and it's about get the strategic sequence right. Before requesting Keshav Rajgopal sir to present, I'm very sorry to announce that one of our mechanical engineering department colleague who has enrolled to our faculty development program passed away yesterday, untimely demise. We shall mourn for a minute in respect of the departed soul of Mr. G.V. Girish. Let us mourn for a minute, and afterwards it's over to Keshav Rajgopal sir. Let's mourn for a minute. Namaste. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Basuraj.
Rajgopal sir.
On behalf of all our resource personnel, our deepest condolences to the departed soul, Mr. Girish. I hope his family gets enough strength from the God to address this loss. May God bless him and support his team. Okay, good morning to you all. So today we are going to cover one of the important topics in the sequence. So this addresses some of the critical questions that we need to answer. So we have identified several ways how we can establish blue strategy, blue ocean strategy thinking. We looked at how do we expand the market, how do we identify areas where we can explore blue ocean, how we can focus, how we can bring some value, and how do we put these different ideas together? What is the right strategy to put them into a flow? So that's what we are going to address. So I just want to make sure that everybody is able to see the presentation as well as clearly hear my voice. So if there is anyone who is unable to catch my voice or unable to see, please say so, speak up. Okay, so there are many confirmations that I'm audible. Okay, so let's move ahead. So again, this is a little bit difficult area of the topic. So what I want you to do is stop me and ask questions, ask clarifications, ask examples, so that we make it as interactive as possible. Okay. So let's go. So what do we cover today? So we are going to look at the strategic sequence. So what should come first? What should come next? What happens after each of the steps? And one of the fundamental concepts we've been talking about in the last 3 days is the exceptional utility of your idea. Now, how do we test? Is it truly exceptional, or is it a mundane, or is it something that can be copied? So we are going to look at how do we test. Then we move on pricing your unique idea. How do we price? What should be the cost? What should be the price? How should we sell this idea to the public or the target market? So once we have a price, then we look at how do we adjust our cost to match this price. So from utility, you come to price and then arrive at the cost, and then how do we adapt within the organization, within the market segment where we are trying to sell. So all of this put together is culminating in something called a Blue Ocean Idea Index. So this will allow you to compare yourselves with the competition, with the market or industry as a whole. First day somebody asked a question, can we use a balanced scorecard? So this is another area where you can actually use a balanced scorecard to validate your idea. Then we will talk about what we learned in the first session as a takeaway, and then we'll have a question and answer session that we didn't come up during the course of the day. So I hope that's all fine with you. So shall we move on? Okay, so right strategic sequence. So what is this? So we start with the fundamental question, buyer utility. Is there an exceptional buyer utility in your business idea? So the blue ocean thinking is all about creating something exceptional, something extraordinary, not normal, not mundane, not exists, that's visible, or somebody is already producing, somebody is consuming. How do we figure out that it is truly exceptional? Can we ask that question again and again? So if you think it's not so exceptional of thinking, probably you need to go back to the drawing board. How do we make this exception? Or should we pick up another idea which is exceptional? So if you do that over a period of time, maybe involve other people who can come up with supporting ideas, then you can answer the question, yes, then you can have a sip of a tea, and then you can proceed. Now, the question is price. You have come up with something extraordinary. Now, you have to price that. Price is what the customer pays. Is the price easily accessible to the mass buyers? You come up with an exceptional utility that is not reachable to ordinary masses, then probably you need to look at the price again, right? So think how you can place your price so that it is accessible. So these two parameters of the sequence, that is the utility and its value as perceived by customers through price, creates the revenue side. So this is how you are going to get money for your idea. So this is one part of the equation. So the next part, now you have the utility, which you think is priced rightly so that you think you can attract a big market. Then you need to arrive at the cost. Cost is what you incur in producing this utility, and price is what the customer pays. So if you look at simply, price minus cost is your profit, right? So is your cost low enough so that your exceptional utility is profitable? That's the question you have to ask. Do I have the right cost? Does it produce enough gap for me to create value? If you think your costs are above the price, probably you need to go back. Hey, how do I reduce my cost? What is my strategic cost below which I can't go to be sustainable? If you think your cost is right, you are able to see profit on the paper. Good, go ahead. Then the next step is adoption. So now we have got the price, the right cost, Now, how do we adapt? So this adoption is a big area of concern for most organizations because companies which have technology probably are weak on the adoption part. So because the adoption is not just internal, it is also an external part. So we are going to take a look at each of these parameters going forward in a fair amount of detail, because without adoption, your product is not going to fly, because customers need to be adapted to your new idea. Society need to be adapted to your new idea. The regulatory or the industry should support your new idea. So we need to identify all those parameters which can be stumbling blocks for you to launch in the market and be successful. So if you look at that, these two ideas form the profit part. So the cost and adoption will allow you to sell the utility at a proper price. So if you think you are able to adapt better, then you have a commercially viable blue ocean idea. So is this clear? So until you ask all these questions and address, your idea is not really viable. It could be a blue ocean idea out of the blue, but can you survive? Probably not. So that's why it's extremely important to follow the sequence right from ideation until you reach the market. Each of these boxes or the concept should be supported very well. So any questions at this stage? Because it's a very important concept. Let me see if there are any questions. So Dr. Raju is asking what pricing strategies are for the blue ocean. So we are going to address when we look at the strategic pricing part. Buyer utility will be from community. Can Dr. Saxena, could you please speak up on this question? It's not clear to me. Dr. Swati Saxena had a question. Buyer utility will be from commonality. Okay, so you can speak up anytime you have a question. So until then, I'll move on. You can pause me anytime. So now you have a utility which you think is exceptional, buyer utility. Now, how do we test? What kind of validations can we do to see if it is really exceptional? So one thing we need to keep in mind as people who think have ideas, the exceptional value is not the same as technology innovation. And technology innovation is not the same as value innovation. Many of the founders get this equation confused. I've got a great technology, so it's an innovative technology. So it does not necessarily convert into a value innovation. Yesterday also Dr. Nitin Verma talked about this in detail, why we should not confuse between value and technology innovations. So the value can come from value innovation, which can be aided by a technology innovation. This is a very important idea that we need to keep in mind while testing for utility of an idea. Here are some samples where people thought this idea is so innovative, it will, blow the world over, and we'll become super rich in no time. That's what these bright minds thought. So these are not small companies. These are not small time entrepreneurs. So look at Google. So Google Glass. So it's about 8-year-old idea. It flopped. Initially, it was a mega phenomenon. People were all thrilled about it, what all it can do, but soon it flopped. Similarly, Philips CDI. CDI is for interactive. So Philips is a leader in the CD. In fact, I think they are the ones who found the innovated the compact disc. This CDI is kind of a blend between laptop, but cheaper than a desktop or a laptop, and it's expensive than a CD player, and it merged both the functionalities together. So using CDI, you could play video, you could play audio, and you could use it as a gaming machine. You can have as an interactive content like a software. So you can do everything on this. So it was a technology marvel because it can do so many things. So it was a technological innovation, but from the customer perspective, it was pretty confusing. What do I use it for? There's so many features. And because of that confusion, there were not enough content. So when there is no content, it can only be used as a video player or an audio player. And for that purpose, you have better and cheaper alternatives. So that's why the CDI concept failed. So another technological innovation is Motorola Iridium. How many people have heard of Motorola? Any voices? Motorola? Yeah, pager. Then they had a series of Razr and so on, innovative mobile phones. And they also were very well known for their Six Sigma initiatives in terms of reducing defects in their production process. Somewhere down the line, they lost the grip on mobile space and lost the market. One of their early investments was in a company called Iridium. Iridium was a very innovative idea at that point of time. I think it's in 97, 98. So where they planned launching a set of 77 low orbit satellites into the space, and through which they could create a network of communication infrastructure. And you have a device like a mobile, a big one, maybe this size with a big antenna which connects directly to the satellite, and you could speak from anywhere on Earth, whether you're in the Atlantic Ocean or you're on top of the any mountain, or maybe in Greenland, Iceland, Arctic, in the middle of Amazon jungle where you can't think of a mobile signal, you could still use, right? So there was an antenna, and you got direct satellite communication wherever you are. So that was the idea. At that point of time, when mobile penetration wasn't deep, it was extraordinary idea. The founders went gaga about it. There was so much of investment. I think they spent nearly $5 billion in launching 66 satellites into space. They really launched 66 satellites, covering the entire circumference of the globe. Interestingly, if you look at it, Earth. Can anybody tell me what percentage of Earth is covered by seas? Anybody would say, anybody could chat? What percentage of Earth is covered by sea or water?
70%.
70%. Absolutely. So what it means is your cost, the continuous cost that's going into maintaining the satellites, is not used 70% of the time, right? Very rarely you will find a customer who is stuck in some ocean and trying to make a call. Now, the other parameter is you need to have a vision of sight. So you can't sit inside a room and make a satellite call because there is a roof here. So it will break. So what you have to do, get out of the building, have a line of sight to the satellite, and then talk. Even if you are inside a city or anywhere on Earth, what percentage of people can really actually look at the sky and find a place where they don't have any shadows, no trees, no buildings, and then make a use? Unlikely. Even if you think of people who can afford this, probably want them to be used inside an aircraft, there is no line of sight. So you can open up some part of the aircraft and talk. So the utility from a customer was so poor, the value supposedly to have been provided by the technology innovation flopped. Believe me, within 9 months, Iridium filed for bankruptcy. $5 billion of investment, 66 already launched, 11 still pending to be launched. And people kept on pumping money into the company, saying that, oh, this is next generation mega idea, this is going to be next GE in terms of size, everything. But within a year, the company went bankrupt. And the rest is story. People broke up the company, purchased for different purposes. The company exists in some form even today, but helping with regular mobile communication, selling spectrum and things like that. So this example should give you a clear idea of why technology innovation is not always, or most of the times, not value innovation. So value is perceived by the end customer, by the buyer. Technology is what the founder or the entrepreneur comes up with. And normally, there's always a big gap. Unless you are in tune with the market, in tune with the society, you will not be able to appreciate matching these two together. So let's see, there are some comments. Yes, 70%. Yeah, it looked like a walkie-talkie, and it had a big antenna because satellite signals tend to be very weak, however low they may be nowadays. Portal model can be used as a BOS. Not really. Portal model comes from a different perspective, especially evaluating your space in the competitive space. In a red ocean, portal model is a very valuable tool. But in a blue ocean, where you don't perceive competition, where you don't perceive an equivalent product, portal model is of little use. Okay. So any questions at this point of time? Okay, so let's move on. So one of the fundamental questions you need to ask, is this technology going to make buyers' lives simpler, easier, more convenient, access to some luxury that they couldn't get until then? Can it make their lives more productive? Can it make their lives safer? Can it provide more fun? Can it be more fashionable? So if you ask these questions, some of them will be answered, and those answers will tell you whether it is blue ocean or not. If it does not fulfill these basic needs of the masses, it will not attract. However, awards such as technology of the decade, technology of the year, person of the year, Times technology of the year, whatever awards it wins, it will not really fly because it does not convey value to the masses. How do you get around this trap? This is a trap. Technology is a big trap. Being in technology for the last 20 years, I can tell you, technology is a big trap. I've seen it myself. I've been fallen into that. I've seen people falling into it. It is a trap. And it's a very attractive trap. So how do we get out of that? So create a strategic profile to test whether the company is focused, divergent, possess compelling taglines that speak to the buyers. We talked about it briefly also on day one. Again, I would like to emphasize, focus is picking up few parameters where you can really convey value innovation. Divergent is the differentiation you can create with the existing offerings, whether in terms of a product or a service. How differentiated is it? And then the third part is it should have a compelling tagline. Tagline is an outcome of so much of effort in conveying the value. So tagline is simply a line, but it just does not come out like this. There's so much of thinking that goes behind it, so much of research that goes behind it, so that all of your ideas put together should convey in one line. So that's why it's so powerful. So if you can get a strategic profile using these three, you can possibly get out of the technology because the technology masks. So these three ideas from you. Okay, so let's look at create a buyer utility map. So this buyer utility map helps you put things in right perspective. So we are going to spend the next few minutes over how do we create a buyer utility map. So this allows you to again, leave the technology behind and look at how people can perceive whether it is adding value or not. Okay, so can anyone tell me what are you seeing on the screen? You can unmute and perhaps say a word or a sentence.
Alexa. Alexa.
Very good. This is a set of devices named Echo, powered by Alexa. Okay, probably you have seen somewhere, or you may own it by yourself. So you see that at least I can see 5 devices, right? So this is Amazon Echo series of products. Let's see if there are any other words. Okay, no. Right. So we are going to look at the Amazon Alexa. So this will help you understand what a buyer utility map can do, how companies can use a buyer utility map to get away from the RO created by the technology. This allows you to use how do we see value in the technology that we have thought of. So Amazon has got a lot of competition, be it in the retail space, be it in technology space, all biggies. Now, who are Amazon's competitors? Can anyone talk about it? Any words? Any companies?
Alibaba.
Okay, good. See, Alibaba is a competition, Walmart is a competition, any online retailer is a competition, right? And then you have on the technology side, Apple, Microsoft, Google, everybody is a competition, all big guys. But continuing to be in that market, the two being profitable is not an easy task. So by 2018, they were around 230 billion. So that continuous growth, nowhere in the dip for the last 10, 12 years, I think, because they constantly improved and introduced new products in the market. They made early and huge investments into artificial intelligence. And that led them to create an uncontested market space. This is another word for blue ocean of smart devices that made competition in that sector largely irrelevant. Though there were many people in that area, but the sophistication of their approach to the market and the devices made that space largely for themselves. If you look at AI touching consumers in the last 10 years, Google was in that space. So if you have an Android, you can certainly say, okay, Google, do something, certainly it does something. If you have a Microsoft Windows, you can talk to Cortana. Cortana is available on all Windows 10 machines and many of the cloud products you have. And of course, you have Amazon, which has Alexa, and more popular is also Apple Siri. So remember all of this? They created a blue ocean product, smart speaker. Google didn't have a product for a long time, even though they had a voice assistant. Microsoft did not come to the product space. They had Cortana on their Windows, which could only speak to the cloud, not even to things inside the laptop. They had a speaker, which was smart, which could listen to you, which can give you anything that's available on the internet. It can have a conversation with you as if you were speaking to a person. The company's main tool is the Alexa. That's Alexa is the technology behind the smart speaker, which we call now Echo. Okay, so we saw a few devices there. They're all Echo devices. So the Alexa or equivalent of AI existed in practically every major company, Apple, Microsoft, IBM also. Now, Amazon comes up with a smart speaker which didn't exist. So now that's a typical buyer utility value. How did they come up with validating whether it is the right model for us? Can it be successful? Is it just a technology pinnacle, or does it offer any value? So we are going to look at how they did that. So the successful implementation of this technology is the Echo device. So, and Alexa services. So they have two different implementation of their technology innovation. Alexa is at the backbone, that is the service which is the AI engine behind so many things. Now Alexa is available as a service. The prime service that you can see Alexa is in the Echo device, or if you have a Kindle reader, so it's there. You can also have Alexa on many of these devices. If you buy any of the wireless headphones now, many of them are Alexa powered. What does it mean? So if you have a wireless network and you are wearing a wireless headphones, you can give commands through the microphone that is hooked to the headphones. You don't need to carry an MP3 player or have a wire or wireless connectivity to your mobile. You can keep running and you can keep controls to your headphones. Alexa, play me this. Alexa, tell me what's the weather in the next road. Alexa, tell me how to go from here and there. So you can talk to yourself basically with just one Alexa powered headphones. Of course, you have smartphones with Alexa. If you don't have installed any Amazon product, they will have an Alexa piece to it, and all kinds of players, whether it's a smart tablets, devices like that you can put it on the in the car screen, and a whole bunch of internet-enabled things such as home entertainment, utility hubs, and so on and so forth. So it becomes a pure B2B segment of services that use Alexa, and B2C where everybody can see an Echo device. So that's how they explored the market with options. But interestingly, it was not confusing enough. Despite the kind of varieties they created, it fitted well with specific segments of the market. Let's look at that. Even though Siri was a first mover in terms of word recognition, so it was limited only on iOS. We saw yesterday also how iPhone continued to be the premium phone for a long time, largely not accessible to the masses. It was not a mass product. So even the Siri was first mover, it was fairly limited to the iPhone. So Amazon looked at that and expanded the market beyond what Apple could think of. It attracted non-customers. That's one of the blue ocean parameters, and it provided unforeseen use cases. It's actually limited by own imagination what ways you can use the Alexa services. So look at the simple voice assistant. So I have Google Home here, you can see. So Alexa comes with a variety of sizes here, a small one like this, which is I think Echo Dot or something, right? So let's look at that part. And then they have a big one, which is for bigger houses. So it can also speak, it can respond, and it can play music if you are connected to any of the paid services or free with ad. So you can ask questions, you can ask jokes, it can ask for information. Can you read out the news? Can you tell me what the weather is? Anything that's available on the internet is available at the reach of a voice. And you can interact with anything that is connected to Alexa. So core customers, who are core customers for technology? Typically savvy teens who have some money from their parents, and adults who are in the early learning time always want to try out new things. Those are core customers for any new technology. That anyway came to Amazon because of the Echo devices, and it's a big chunk of non-customers. So look at these non-customers, kids. Normally people won't give to kids any devices except the smartphone for playing now. Now practically every kid has a smartphone. So child-focused Alexa devices and skills. There are Echo made for children, also the Alexa services available on any of the devices that the kids use, like a laptop or a tablet or a smartphone. So it gives you child ready service. So they created first dot kids edition. Echo dot kids edition is a small one. I'm going to show you a little bit later. So it was one of the one to come specifically for the kids to expand its user base, which provides safety, from abuse and language restrictions and what they can find, what they can ask for. They well insulated their children from abuse and misuse. So it became a child compatible product. That's one area which was not at all exposed to this kind of technology. They opened up, and parents loved it because technology, especially in the form of a smartphone, you can't take away, but make it more child friendly. So parents were willing. Senior citizens largely ignored by technology because many of the guys, older people, even though you give them a smartphone telling them it's easy, you can make a call, you can talk to your children in the US or anything, they look at this as, oh, keyboard is too small, I can't hear. So they have a lot of issues with devices that is made for general public. So look at what Amazon did. They created a classic collection of music from tapes and vinyl, which the senior citizens loved playing. They moved all of them to digital. And they could read books. They moved all their classical books to Audible. Audible is another company which Amazon took over in terms of audio books. So they created the entire market segment meant for senior citizens. And if you have a home entertainment system, so they could connect to Alexa, and people could say, can you switch this off? Can you switch that on? Can you open the door? Can you close the door? Can you call up 911? Can you call police? It all became so easy for senior citizens. It's as good as having one virtual assistant at home. Can you imagine the size of senior citizens in developing countries? It's huge, huge. Largely untapped market, largely non-manual. So that opened up a real big ocean of opportunities through Alexa. And of course, the enterprise, where you sell the Alexa services for IoT devices. So you can have control, you can manage, you can manipulate what all those devices are producing in terms of data. So they had a tagline only for enterprise, as far as I know. So empower your organization with Alexa. You may build devices, but empowering the organization with those devices and the data, that's where Alexa is going to add value. So if you look at this, core customers were a small segment, and 3 times probably is the non-customers they brought into the market for themselves. And cost, so this is where the value innovation came through pricing also. So they have a variety of devices, Echo input. It doesn't have a speaker, it just listens to your input and it can translate into its language, and the output can be to your Bluetooth enabled device, or if you have a speaker at home or a hi-fi system, you can just connect to input. It becomes Alexa capable device. You can give instructions and the speaker can play the music and everything. So Echo itself input, itself doesn't have a speaker. Then you have a smallest possible Echo Dot, which is probably something like this. So which is Echo Dot, you can place it as a paperweight. And then there is a dot with a clock, which can set alarms. You can set alarms by voice, you can snooze it by voice. And there is a dot kids edition, it comes in different colors, which is exciting for kids. And again has a safety layer around what kind of responses you can give, what kind of questions you can ask, what kind of information is retrieved. And there is a Echo, which is maybe of this size, which is a typical low-end use. Echo Plus, probably this size, which is a little bit bigger, which can fill the room. And there is the Echo Studio, which is a little bit bigger for bigger rooms, and Echo Sub. People who want to use as a subwoofer to their existing home entertainment system, so they can use the Echo Sub. And there is the Echo Show, which is like a tablet, which is fully Echo, which has a speaker, it has a screen, so you can play, so all voice control. This covered the whole spectrum of usage of a smart speaker across the board. So there is a device. Of course, all these devices are not available in all markets. But they looked at it, which market is amenable for what kind of device, who will buy what, and they did enough market research to make sure that no specific products are released in those markets. So I'm personally excited about what I have been seeing in this AI-powered devices, especially Echo. So any questions at this stage? This gives you a very good story of how to use buyer utility map to come up with a technology value and how do you convert into a user value, how do you price it so that you get the segment and how you convert non-customers into your customers. All good elements of the blue ocean strategy is seen through this example. So I'll take a break of 1 minute. So you think about what questions you have on this wonderful case. Okay, so no questions?
Hello, sir. I just have one question.
Sure.
That I'm Dr. Purvi Pujari. Just wanted to ask that if any company goes ahead and creates a blue ocean, what are the chances that some other company copies it and comes back, the competition comes back to it very quickly and grabs the same customer base?
Good question. It is very much possible because we have seen many cases where the first mover advantage was taken away or made useless in the subsequent people who didn't have to spend the money in doing that research or coming up with that idea. So if you want to be continuing in the blue ocean that you created, you must continue to stick to evaluate the utility. All those 4 pieces are still valid. We talk about this, right? Yeah. So you continue to validate. This is not a one-time story. Do my products still have the buyer utility? I need to ask that again. So as somebody coming to the place, am I going to be a same player as a new guy who is probably at a cheaper price? Or am I going to use my first mover advantage to create something more, expand my market reach, create some more non-customers? So that question you need to continue to ask. You know, to still talk about price. Are you going to give the value beyond competition at the price that are accessible to the masses? Is your cost continuing to be going lower and lower because you are maturing and you have probably a visibility into what the competition is doing? So, and are you going to adapt much better than that guy so that you can win a new market? So this continues to happen. This continue to be valuable even as new players come into the market. So otherwise, as you clearly said, somebody big enough can clearly take over that market space, and you may lose the blue ocean, or the ocean itself can convert into red. So what it meant for Amazon is it commands over 70% of the market share. It's mind-boggling, and it's a side business for them. It's not their mainstream earning area. They earn a lot through their AWS offerings. So any further question? Okay, so this is how the buyer utility map looks like. Okay, so we talked about how do you validate the exceptional utility. So in this session, we continue to focus on exceptional value, exceptional utility. How do you validate? How do you validate? Okay, so now look at this. On the horizontal side, we have stages of buyer. It's typically any life cycle of a product. So you start from purchase. Once you purchase, there is a delivery. Maybe if it's a small item, you can purchase off the shelf. You purchase and take it with you. There is something that needs to be delivered. For example, you buy a fridge or a washing machine. Normally, it does not follow you right away. It comes after a few hours or a few days, not days. Then you start using them. Then you have supplements. Maybe you need some add-ons or complementary products, and then you need to maintain for a longer duration. Once its lifetime is over, you need to dispose. So now you need to validate this entire area of life cycle of the product by these 6 utility levers. So you see on the left side, there are rows of utility levers. Customer productivity, how does it affect the purchase, the life cycle of the product? Simplicity, how it's affecting any of these activities? How is the convenience effective in all the 6 areas of the life cycle? How are you addressing the risk through all of this? And think about fun and image across the life cycle. For example, now while purchasing, it could be fun and frolic when you are buying, but when it's delivery, it may be a headache. And it could be even a bigger headache, when it comes to disposal, something like a battery or something that is environmentally hazardous. So that's a big pain for disposal, where it could be real fun in buying, like a smartphone. But disposal, it's not so easy. Many of you have got tons of phones, smart or unsmart, lying in a box, because you can't dispose it because it has a hazardous material inside. So environment friendliness. So all these parameters will allow you to validate the customer experience across its life cycle. So this is a very good map. So these 36 boxes will allow you to validate, is the utility coming at a price that it can be afforded, or it's not going to be afforded. So we are going to look through some of the sample so that it becomes very clear. So you need to ask questions. So there's a lot of questions. So I'm not going to read through all of this. So the slides are already shared, and probably you get a copy of this. And I'm going to quickly go through some of the questions on how can you ask through these 6 stages of product life cycle. Purchase. How long does it take for you to find the product you need? Is it easy to search for? Easy to purchase? Easy to pay? Is it secure enough? So these are the questions you need to ask across these 6 utility levers. For example, is it simple to purchase? Is it convenient to purchase? Is it safe to purchase? For example, if I'm going to purchase one Audi or a Mercedes, I'm not going to take cash. So I'm not going to have 2 suitcases of 30 lakh rupees to a dealer to buy an Audi, because it's a very risky proposition, right? So similarly, how is the purchase environment friendly? So I'm not going to purchase something which is hazardous even during the purchase process. So such questions you need to ask. So delivery and use becomes very much important for most of the products. How easy it is to deliver, because the majority of the people find value or happiness in the process of purchasing or even the delivery. Once they start using, that value goes down. Many of the products. So the moment you order, so you are excited. Wow, in few days I'm going to get this. That happiness will not last longer when you start using it. More so when the product is bad. Right? So you need to think about these questions and address them before you launch into the market. So let's look at some of the use questions. Can I use it straight away? So for any smartphone, you don't have a manual or 1 hour training by anybody, unless it's an extraordinary new feature where the salesman probably could explain. You don't need it. Even kids know right out of the box, they start using it. So the product should be like that, right? How effective are the features in products? How usable is the product? Right? So supplements. So some of the products you buy is not usable until you add on something. For example, I remember there was a innovative blue ocean product called WorldSpace. Has anybody heard of WorldSpace? So WorldSpace was a satellite radio, just like the Motorola Iridium we talked about it. WorldSpace launched a few satellites in the sky, and they had devices like stereo boxes, which had an antenna not on top of the speaker or a device. So it should be like your dish antenna, which is facing the satellite, and you could get ad-free stereo quality music. But I think it's about 20 years ago. Personally, I was so excited about getting good quality music because we had only AM at that point of time, AM radios or cassettes. CDs were also not there. So somebody is giving me CD quality stereo in a mobile device or in a stereo device without even paying for the CDs. All I need to do is subscribe, and I get about a dozen channels, something for classical Indian music, something for filmy music, something for pop music, rock music, a variety of music. It was thrilling. Nobody ever had such an option. Even internet was not so popular at that point of time. It was a big thing at that point of time. World space. The moment internet became publicly available and the data prices dropped, it became irrelevant. Why would somebody have a device, have an antenna and a connection, pay for the subscription? When I get that song in my mobile free, or I subscribe to this, they went bankrupt. So that's why you need to look at supplements. Having a device is not enough. I need to have an antenna, I need to have a remote, I need to have the subscription. So you make it such a complicated paradigm to use, then it will not fly. So that's why asking these questions becomes very important, so that I need to look at this area. Let me go back to the drawing board. How can I exclude supplements? Maintenance is another one. So once the euphoria of buying is gone, maintenance becomes a key. Does it need any maintenance? Does it need any subscription? Does it need any add-on service? Does it need any cleanup? So you need to ask those questions on the maintenance front. Again, across those 6 rows. Is it easy? Is it convenient? Is it easy? So once you start asking questions across these 36 cells, you have a better view. Oh, I didn't think about the riskiness of maintenance. The end user cannot maintain himself. He need to call service center. Oh, that's a stumbling block. Let me do something about it. So disposal, very much important nowadays, because you can't keep throwing things wherever you want. Government regulations are probably going to become even more stronger on what you can throw and what you cannot throw, and even if you throw, how it needs to be thrown. Right? Like battery is a typical example. You just can't keep it on the street. So how do you dispose it of safely? So if you answer all of these questions, you will find certain blocks that you are not sure of, or that you think that it's going to be a stumbling block. Then you go back to the drawing board and see how you can address that. So that's why buyer utility map becomes extremely key to validate your value proposition. So any questions here? Yeah, Saragram Caravan, that's correct. Saragram has already built-in songs, whereas Workspace need to be connected to outside antenna and listen to various channels. Okay, so let's move on to the blocks. I talked about when you ask these questions, you will certainly find certain blocks. For example, look at the customer productivity, consumer. Using this product, will it make you more productive, or is it going to be less productive? Right? Is it simple? In what stages simplicity becomes a problem? In what stage convenience becomes a problem? In what stage you see risks? We see most of the cases in disposal or maintenance. Risks exist for most products which are not small size. Fun and image, that's again another area where the technology itself does not provide, but you need additional skill sets and mindsets to create that fun and image. So is it looking very serious throughout the purchasing process of the product life cycle? How do I create that fun and image part? In which part of this product life cycle can I bring in fun and image? Better during the purchase and use. If you can bring fun, then the adoption becomes much easier. Environment friendliness, Again, you have to ask across all these stages of life cycle, where I'm going to face a problem in environmental friendliness. Typically in maintenance, because for example, in some maintenance of older generation of fridge, you need to remove certain liquid, and fill up with another liquid which was not user friendly. And disposal is still an issue for many products. You can't simply throw away or even keep once it is dead. It has to be properly taken out in certain facilities and then disposed. So these questions will definitely come up with certain blocks, or the biggest blocks, some things you have not thought of, something you can think of, and something you need to address. You may or may not have the capability to resolve it yourself. That's where we look at partnerships in the coming slides, and how we can use partnership to address some of these issues which we ourselves cannot take care of. So any questions here? Okay, there is a question on what about culture as a factor. Yes, culture is definitely a factor which we look at in adoption. That's the fourth piece in adoption. So culture becomes a serious concern for any launch. Okay, so let's look at the buyer experience cycle. I'm going to give you a sample of how we can tick off the boxes. So we saw this, right, 6x6 matrix. So I'm going to give you a sample on how we can tick off. So can you see something in front of your screens? Can anybody say what it is?
French fries.
French fries, very good. So what are those two items? Can anyone say?
The first one is a fryer without the smoke and everything. An electronic device to fry.
Very good. What's the second one? What is at the bottom?
They are frying directly in the oil with the heat and
Very
so
good.
more oil.
Very good. Very good. So, which is a typical French fry. So, what you see at the bottom is a traditional French fry making. So, French fry, those of you who have not exposed to this junk food can consider it as a Western variety of our chips. So, what we eat potato chips, which is again fried. So, if you make the potato slices into vertical columns like this and fry it, so it becomes French fries. In UK, it is still called chips. It's not called French fries, but in the US and many parts of the world, it's called French fries. I don't know if the French discovered this or not, but what you see at the bottom, if you go to any of the French fry making outlet, even probably in Shimoga, you may have some companies, some hotels, and probably in every metro you see this. McDonald's, KFCs, and many other Indian companies also, who make French fries in front of you. So they have these potato slices. They put it in this grill kind of a pan. So and then there's a hot oil there. And they put it there for a while, maybe a few minutes, and then it's fried, and then it's distributed along with some kind of a sauce. So it's a very good junk food. If you want to spoil the health of your kids, even though they like it, it's a good one. So this was one of the most popular snacks in the Western world, probably now in the majority of the Indian metros as well. There are a few concerns. I'm not talking about health. Health is definitely a hazard here. So I'm not talking about it from a purely technology point. How do you address? This is a red ocean. Practically everybody has an offering of French fries in their hotels. If I want to bring something else, how can I do that? So what you see on the top is an electric fryer. Some of the features of electric fryer is you can use it at home, and it needs just an electricity. You don't need this much oil, and you don't need to touch oil because it is hot, and there is not so much of volume of oil. It's definitely healthier. and you need less oil, and you are not exposed to the risk of hot oil in front of you, and you don't need to worry about disposing such a large quantities of hot oil, and it does not cause a smoke, right? There are so many good things about this device. So if somebody were to produce such a device, how would they make a buyer's utility map? So this product currently I think is owned by TFAL, TFAL, Fryer. So look at this 6x6 matrix. So use was the only case the currently industry focused on. Create a reliable electric fire. Okay, I'm going to create an electric fire, but if you look at the buyer utility map, you need to worry about so many things. How do you uncover blocks? You can start asking all the questions now. So some of the questions that this company asked at that point of time is supplement. You can't have a fire without oil, or at least it does not give the taste that people look for in a fried stuff. So you need liters of oil that are expensive because I don't know how often they change the oil. So every day you may need quintals of oil replaced. On a home scale, at least it's several liters. So that's a block. Can I afford to have so much of oil being used and replaced? Then maintenance, big issue, because oil spits across your kitchen, and cleaning it up is a real mess. It's not just on the kitchen surface, but to your exhaust or to your stuff next to it, or whoever is even doing the cooking. It's a big mess. Then look at the convenience and the risk. Hot fryer is very dangerous. The hot fryer is the traditional fryer is very dangerous unless you're extremely careful in using the pan and changing the oil, taking the fried stuff out and then putting it back. If you are not very careful, it is dangerous. It can spray on your dress, it can spray on skin, you can get your skin burnt. And biggest issue is disposal. What do you do with hot oil? You can throw it, right? You can't use it. So people don't know what to do with oil. Then fun and image. Hot fryer, if somebody is actually frying French fries at home, you can make out from a distance. If somebody is frying potatoes next door, probably people from your house behind can smell it. And not everybody likes all kinds of smells. And it's not just on the time, but even after days, it continues to smell like potatoes. Not everybody likes it. So these are all the blocks they uncovered. So now you need to address all of it when you're releasing the product. That's where they came up with electric fire. So if you look at this device, it's cute, it's fun because it looks very elegant. You don't mind keeping it on your work table also. And there is very little oil because it sprays hot oil on the potatoes. So there is actually no deep frying. It's actually hot spray within the device, and it does not escape the container. Right? It's very easy to clean. So put a drop of shampoo or a cleaning liquid, and it's clean. And there is very hardly any oil left. So you don't need to really worry about disposing of oil. And there's no smell because very little oil used. It's less risky, it's more convenient, doesn't need a great deal of supplements, it doesn't need maintenance. So whatever is the X box here, which is not viable from a traditional product, they were able to uncover and address. So now we get the value of a buyer map. So any questions here?
Yes. Why don't they mention the taste anywhere? Because that's a big difference in both the fryers. So where does taste come into picture?
Taste is a relative term, I agree. Fried stuff will not be as tasty with the full amount of oil without it. But given the convenience factor, health factor, fun factor, look factor, less risky factor, majority of the buyers are able to make a little bit of compromise there.
So, but sorry, I beg to differ. I think that is the reason that these new devices are not very famous, specifically in India, because we think that taste is missing from the air fryer part.
Definitely. So these devices were meant for French fries. If you go to UK, US, or anywhere, households still have these devices. They prefer their children sitting in front of them eating the French fries made by them instead of going to McDonald's or KFCs to eat them. In India, yes, it's a different question. So that's where the other question of what is the culture as a map, I mean culture as a parameter, yes, it becomes very critical. In India, this is not at all famous. I don't know even if you go and ask a Tifal shop, do you have a fryer? Probably will not find it. I think Philips also created this. I don't think it was successful. You're absolutely right. Okay, so any questions? Okay, so let's move on. So now we looked at the revenue side. So you have a buyer utility map, which can convey the value. Then you looked at what kind of validations you can do on it. So then you look at the pricing part. So you have validated your product. Now how do I price? What are the parameters for pricing this product? So to have a strong revenue stream, you need to have a right price. So a good product at a right price really makes it right. So many companies, what they do, they test the product in different situations with different prices. So before they arrive at what could be a good price. So if you look at any of the grocery shops, so you go there and you'll certainly find certain offerings at the front side of the entrance. Buy one, get one free. So there are two possibilities for that. One, they want to get rid of the product because either it's old or new model is coming or a new flavor is coming. That's one area. The second one is testing the market. So when there was a fruit juice called Real Juice, heard of that name? So it was a Dabur product. When they came into juice market, they started with this. I don't know what's the right product. So let me sell, buy one, get one free. So if the new product is, let's say, 150 rupees, currently 1 liter of juice is available for 60 to 80 rupees in the brand. These guys come up with 150 rupees for one product, but as a starting offering, they'll give you two. Buy one, get one free. So you see how 150 divided by 75. Well, 75 is cheaper than my 80 rupees juice. So let me try. So people will start that mood. After a while, the companies will get to know, oh, people are willing to buy too easily. They're getting to probably closer to half or closer to 2/3. So that way they will go back to the prices and tweak it. This is one of the ways you can, one of the ways companies come to what kind of a price they can seek from the customers. So right from day one, it is important to know what price will be workable for you before you release into the market. So you should do enough market studies and focus group plans to arrive at a price right from day one so that you capture the mass market. So don't play around with price because people will stop trusting the product because they are thinking, we are being taken for a ride. So one of the tools is something called price corridor of the mass, which we'll cover in the next slide. That allows you to figure out what is the right price that creates an irresistible offer. So don't worry too much about this slide. It looks a little bit complicated. So look at only two steps here. How do I arrive at the price? That's the answer this question is trying to provide. So you identify the price corridor of the mass. Price corridor is like you have this, you see a rectangle here. The bottom portion is the lower end. This is the higher end. And this is the midway. So the upper level pricing, the lower level pricing, and the mid level pricing. So you need to see how wide is the middle price. So identify the price corridor. How do you arrive at price corridor? So you need to ask 3 questions to arrive at the price corridors. So look at the alternative products and services. So the product alternative for your product has the same form. For example, if I look at this Google Home, so Echo, the normal Echo is also in the same form, more or less similar, but this has a curvature, so it doesn't have a curvature, so it's flat. So it's the same form. So is it priced similarly in case of an existing or a similar product? Or it's a different form, same function. Yeah, I have a large speaker, but it looks good. But it's not the same form, but same function, it's still a speaker. But the sound doesn't come from all around, but it comes from the top. And there's a small driver here, which produces the bass. So it's a different form, but provides the same function. So now there's the third alternative, different form and function, but same objective. So there could be a plate which you can assign it to wall. Does not look like a speaker, but still provides you connectivity and provides you music. So when you look at these form, different form and different function form, but same objective. So you're providing entertainment, maybe the objective, right? It's a different form and function, but still getting entertained. So that's the objective. So now you look at what kind of prices so you could attach to each of these forms. So if you look at this pass, see there are circles here, white color circles. Can you see them? Some are big and some are small. The size of the circle represents the size of buyers at that particular price. The lower price between middle and lower, there's a large chunk of buyers for same and similar forms. If I go away from the form and feature but similar objective, so a little bit broader perspective of the value I'm providing. In this sample, I've taken Echo, the smart speaker as a product. So anything similar to speaker, small size, smaller level, there are large chunk of buyers willing to buy at that price. If I go away from the looks and features, but same objective, something that provides an entertainment. So people are willing to pay a little bit higher price. So if I keep the same form, like Echo Dot, I have a same form, but if I increase the price, making it premium, the size of people who buy reduces dramatically. So when you do this exercise, you get this cluster of circles. This comes through your market survey and the pricing strategy we looked at in the previous slide. Then you can look at, oh, this is where the price should be. Okay. So now the second step is specify a price level within that price corridor. So I'm looking at medium price or higher price or lower price. So look at the levels within which you can place it. For upper level pricing, high degree of legal and resource protection. For example, when Apple comes up with Siri, nobody can produce Siri. Or they come up with certain, if any of you owned iPod, not iPad, iPod, the music player, hard disk based music player, they had a control. They had no buttons, there's one circle, so which you can move. So change across, right side, left side, top and bottom, touch sensitive one, that they patented. So that's a high degree of resource protection. So nobody could copy it. So what that means is your price is priced at a higher level. Since nobody can copy, you can afford to price it higher. And because it is unique in its offering, many people didn't mind paying for that. Okay, so that's where you can think of, can I price it higher within the band? Then mid-level pricing, some degree of legal and resource protection. So legal protections basically comes from patenting kind of protection. Resource protection is unique material that you have or that you have access to, which nobody has. That's where you can have a middle level of pricing. Then the low degree of so anybody can copy, right? So you don't have any protection from patents. And resource protection, it's using commonly available material. For example, if you use a titanium or some kind of aircraft grade aluminum, you have some kind of resource protection. Not everybody can compete. Then you can go for a higher level of pricing. If you make it out of normal tin sheet or plastic, something like that, with available technologies, then you definitely cannot go for higher pricing. It has to be lower pricing. So two aspects: price corridor, the band of price, so which can come from looking at these three perspectives: alternatives of the form and function, and alternatives of the objective, but in a different form and function. Then you specify within that band, so what should be your pricing level. So this is the gist of how do you get the price of the product you are looking at. So I'll pause for a moment to see if there are any questions here. Okay.
Sir, I just have a question.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm Dr. Veena Pani, and then my question is, to remain in the blue ocean space, why aren't companies thinking about product or process patenting?
It does provide you certain level of legal protection. Okay, from an internal perspective, it is a very good way to protect your idea. But when you come out of the internal parameters of the environment, from a consumer perspective, is it going to offer any value? Is it going to stop someone else from not creating same or a similar product at much lower levels? So it becomes a competitive landscape. While you have some kind of protection, there are ways and means somebody can overcome the patent by offering an alternative process, alternative resource of the material. So because the patent is different in different countries, because it's a legal concept, so the solution or the alternative also varies from different countries. So it cannot be a sole value proposition. It can be supportive of your blue ocean idea. That's where you can probably demand a high level of price. That's what this slide talks about. Your product or a process is a blue ocean. You can demand higher level pricing by having a patent. Did I answer that question?
Yes, thank you, sir.
Sure. Okay, so now we will look at the profit model. We looked at the revenue model, and then we looked at the costing or pricing, and we look at the cost perspective. You have decided the price. I'm going to price my product in the range of 5,000 rupees to 10,000 rupees, whatever the product is. So looking at the previous slide. Now we are going to see at what cost I should be able to produce so that I make a profit. So we arrived at the strategic price. So from the previous slide, the price corridor of the boss. You have a strategic price or a price range. Then you decide on the target profit. So the target profit is a function of the entrepreneurs, the investors. It's a collective projection of profit. I need at least 30%. That's why I'm investing. Something like that. You have a target profit. Probably that's easier to arrive at compared to the cost of the price. So now you have a target cost. You have a strategic price defined in the previous slide. You define a target profit and then deduct that from the price and you have a target cost. Okay, I make 30% profit. So now I need to sell my products at 7,000 rupees. That's my selling price or the cost price. That's the production price. Now, how do I reach that cost? There are two ways. If it is above your level of comfort, you have to streamline and innovate on the cost front so that you bring down the cost. Some things you cannot do it yourself. For example, you talked about some aluminum as a major part that goes into product. You can't buy a cheaper aluminum. So if you want to buy cheaper aluminum, you have to import from China or somewhere else, or you partner with somebody who produces it at a lower cost, or some of the input material that you are considering is a side product of somebody else's product. If you look at petrochemical industry, they come up with hundreds of chemicals and side products that can be used in multiple industries. That's why petrochemical companies venture out into multiple chemical divisions and plastics and everything, because they're all the side effects of the main petroleum process. So you should look at partnering with the people for whom this material is negligible value or cost. So you should look at partnering when you cannot innovate on the cost part. So if you do look at this, then it arrives at the pricing innovation. This pricing innovation is the one which gives you the strategic cost. This is a simple workflow arriving at the profit model, how we can maximize our profit. So any questions here? Okay, so let me see if there are any questions here. Okay, so anyway, patents and IP are going to be addressed by Dr. Mahadev Swami in the next session. That's good. Thank you, Mahesh. Now, so we came to the adoption. I think somebody asked about the culture point. Who was that? Yeah. So we are going to address the cultural part here. So now we looked at the bio-utility, we looked at the price band, and we looked at how do we arrive at the strategic cost. For 3 elements good enough? No. Blue ocean is something about that does not exist ideally. That concept does not exist, that use case does not exist, that business segment does not exist. So what does it mean? So you need to educate, you need to create awareness. So any business model is not guaranteed of the success just by the idea itself, because the word change, rattles most of the guys, everybody. The markets get rattled, buyers get rattled, suppliers get rattled, governments get rattled by the change in the status quo, because it provokes fear. First, it starts with the employees. The moment a company comes up with a breakthrough idea, first fear in employees' mind is, oh, I'm going to become redundant. Company is going to throw me because this new product requires only machines. It does not need any people. So they get really shaky. So company must educate the fearful. Where the fearful exists? Across the board. Right in the company board, there are fearful guys. When somebody in the company comes up with a breakthrough idea, when it is being evaluated inside the board, the first fear comes from the directors. Hey, this is very risky. You're going to sink our company. That's where the fear starts. Even it gets out of the company's first wall. So the entrepreneurs or whoever is coming up with the idea must be ready to educate the fearful. They need to be so convinced that they take along all these stakeholders along with them. And then, we can look at taking it to the market. I'm going to spend a few times here because it's largely about the organizational change management within the organization. And outside of the organization, it's a lot about educating the public, educating partners, bringing the awareness inside the government circles. So it's not an easy for a blue ocean product, because it's not just inside the company that you are creating something new, but making sure whoever receives it, whoever sees it, whoever supports it, need to be equally aware and aware of the benefit. They should not become fearful. So employees, for them, the biggest factor for fear is loss of job. So you need to address about how it's going to help them. For example, if you are coming up with some innovation, so employees should perceive it as something that's going to make their lives easier, their work more productive, right? As a consumers, so it becomes a lot more enjoyable, a lot more convenient, because employees also consumers in their personal capacities. So the company must spend significant amount of time in creating unequivocal voice to create an environment of safety and comfort before they go produce or even going ahead with public announcements. So employees also should be kicked about this idea because they are going to be part of this process of manufacturing or delivering whatever stake they take in the entire life cycle of the product. So the company should work with employees to find out how their fears can be addressed. Somebody may have a fear of job loss, somebody may have a fear of increasing the risk, maybe the product is hazardous, you need to tell them how we are addressing it or how it's not, so it does not pose any kind of risk. So all those concerns must be addressed carefully so that it does not get into any legal ramifications. So employees are the first pillar of strength for any product. So you need to take care of them first in terms of removing these fears. So once your employees are in your basket in terms of supporting your idea, look at the business partners. These are the ones who may give you access to market. Maybe they are your selling partners, or give you the supply chain, who give you the material and inputs. So they also need to be comfortable with the idea. So they should be aware that you are not going to take away their business. You are not going to back integrate or front integrate. So you should make it very clear that they are part of this blue ocean strategy, which is going to be helpful in terms of growing their markets as well. So it's going to increase their revenues as well. It's going to increase their profits as well. It will expose them to your markets. So that should be the packaging for them instead of, hey, I'm going to make you redundant because that part is no longer required. We are going to market ourselves. So those should not be the statements. How do you take them along with you so that as a ecosystem of this product, you go to the market? And third, but most important one is the public, because these are the consumers of your product. So they should not have any apprehensions about this product. Because if you look at the past, many products failed because of the negative publicity. Companies didn't do anything wrong, their product wasn't wrong. But the public perception of it was negative. Hey, this is against my cultural norms. This is against my tradition. I cannot use this. So once that comes into picture, nobody will touch it. So companies need to be very sensitive to the cultural and societal norms that will either support or not support this product. So that's why market study of the public is extremely important on how people perceive the intended product in their societies. So that's why if you look at many of the blockbuster product, it's not available everywhere across the world, because in certain part of the world, that product or service does not gel with the positive image of any established norms there. So that's why cultural and societal considerations are also equally important. If it is not sensitive to the cultural norms of it, then at least an awareness has to be there in terms of how this product will help them have better lives, how it adds value to their life, how it can enrich their lives. So that kind of awareness has to happen. So all these three areas need to happen probably simultaneously in different segments while the product development is still going on. It should not be an afterthought. After you have come up with the product, you have a price, you have signed up, then you look at ramifications, probably it's too late. That's where many products failed because of the negative publicity. Okay? So, the tagline here, companies need to explain the merits, set clear expectations of its ramifications, and describe how the companies will address them. So, these three areas you need to make sure lay the ground for launching the product. So, any questions at this stage? Okay, so this is a quick summary of all parameters we looked at. So you have a utility, you have a price, you have a cost, you have adoption. Then you compare this with rest of the industry. I think the balanced scorecard approach will also come into picture. So this is more or less similar to that. So you rate yourself against the nearest competitor in terms of a similar offering or a similar value against the industry. If you score higher compared to this, then you have something valuable to offer, right? If you see that the plus is a value innovation, negative is a no value innovation. So if you have more pluses against the competition in the industry, then you have a market that you can address. Okay, so that's the end of session. I have a summary which is saying. So I'm willing to take any questions you may have. We have run out of time, but still open for a few questions.
Any other questions? Okay.
So any questions from audience side? If there is no question, we will break for 15 minutes and we will assemble by 11:45 a.m.
Okay, thank you very much.
So we thank
Thank you, sir.
presenter, Mr. Keshav Rajgopal. He had previous session in the morning and we had very good interaction with the participants. I thank Keshav Rajgopal sir for his wonderful presentation on behalf of Department of Mechanical Engineering, JNNCE College of Engineering, Shivamoga, as well as participants of Atal FDP Blue Ocean Strategy. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rajgopal sir, for your wonderful presentation. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Bye-bye. See you later.
Okay, sir. Bye.